Tony D and Little Jones asleep on the couch, and this is a screenwriter's take on No Hard Feelings, starring Jennifer Lawrence as a woman trying to save her house by sleeping with a college kid so that his parents can set him off to college experience. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books. Links in the description. Comedy Heart in South Jersey. It's the Pineys, books 1 through 13, available at Amazon.com. Don't forget, Kindle Unlimited is free. Why do you keep forgetting? Anyhow, and yes, Jennifer Lawrence is full frontal in this, and it's pretty funny. So, as always, I'll give you the non-spoiler reviews first. This would have been a comedy I could have seen in the 90s, and I would call it a very grounded comedy. Nothing in this movie happens that isn't mostly realistic. Everything is very grounded. So it doesn't take it to that next level. It doesn't, it doesn't get into like airplane territory or even Animal House territory where it gets so crazy they push it off a cliff. But it is pretty funny. But like the end of the movie isn't as funny as the first two acts. The second act's the funniest act. And there's a bunch of misadventures, but then they resolve everything kind of in the realistic way as opposed to the comedy way, right? Which I didn't mind because the characters in this are pretty well thought out. The dialogue, flows. Every character has their own moment. They resolve things in a fairly interesting way, and the characters make sense, and what they do makes sense. Everything in this movie works. The nude scene with Jennifer Lawrence isn't as sexy as you'd think because it's really probably the biggest comedy scene in a movie. It's right smack in the middle, and it's pretty funny. But yeah, she's completely naked in it. So, there's a couple of really funny scenes. Most of it's in the trailer. Most they gave away with the trailer, unfortunately. I knew every scene that was coming. I was like, oh, this is that scene. And one scene I kind of forgot about by the time I saw this. But, it's pretty solid. Pretty solid. Everything wraps up at the end. It does have a happy ending, even though it is very grounded in reality. No real woke stuff that I could point to. It'd be a stretch to say any of the jokes or bits in this movie were woke in any way, really. Maybe one joke in the beginning if you really want to stretch the definition. But other than that, solid movie. I could see why Jennifer Lawrence picked this script. It was a solid script. A solid script with a solid character. And a lot of the character arc is her. And it's engaging. Now, personally, if I was writing the movie, I'd have gone the other way with the third act, and I'd have pushed the damn thing off a cliff until it was like crazy ridiculous. But this is another way to go with it. And if you're writing a comedy screenplay, that's a choice, right? The choice is, do I stay in the realm of total realism, not really doing something crazy, or do I push it off a cliff? So the movies I would draw sort of kind of inferences towards is this movie ends more like Superbad, right? Superbad's kind of got a similar format. It's very funny, first two acts, but the third act there's a big resolution to the drama between the friends, and that's more serious. And even though it is serious, you can forgive it because you've laughed up to that point and the characters are realistic. Nothing happens in Superbad that couldn't happen in real life. Not really. It's very character driven. Whereas the opposite would be something like Animal House, where you don't have a lot of unrealistic bits at at the end, but the comedy is really pushed to its maximum. Um, which I prefer. It almost doesn't. There's only one bit in Animal House at the end where they do something totally insane and unrealistic. But other than that, it is kind of grounded in reality. Like almost everything in that could happen. Um, but and then the other way would be to go, I don't know, like Dodgeball. I mean, just something so insane, or Tropic Thunder, something along those lines, where it's just GD nuts by the end. But getting back to this, Jennifer Lawrence is hot, still very hot. Um, Looks great in the nude scene, but actually looks better in some of the other scenes when she's dressed to the nines, because the nude scene she's in a fight on the beach. And so you know it's not meant to be a sexy scene, which is kind of interesting because you're watching it go, oh, this is when she's nude, and then you're kind of like caught up in the action. um, Matthew Broderick's in it as the dad of the kid who basically he's lived a sheltered life. He's 19. He's going away to college, and Matthew Broderick and his wife hired Jennifer Lawrence, who's desperate for money. Actually, she's not even going to get money. She's going to get a car. She's desperate to get a car so she can continue to go to work to save her house. And there's a whole backstory with that works. So she agrees to date their son and basically have sex with him, although they don't say it in so many words, so he can go to college with some experience because he's too sheltered. But it's partly the parents' fault, obviously. So that's the setup. But of course, he's so, as Jennifer Lawrence says in one moment in the movie, which kills me every time I hear it, he is uneffable. Because he's just lived a sheltered life, and and she's trying to bring him out of his shell. So I think the movie works, and by the end of it, yeah, I kind of like both characters, really. Again, I would have gone the other way with it. I would have made him really more uneffable. And then Jennifer Lawrence would have been pulling her hair out by the end. But I would give it, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give it like a 7 for the experience, because I do want the more crazy comedy. But in terms of the screenplay, I'd give it a 9. The screenplay is really well done. Because every character is doing what it's supposed to do. So if you're going to go down this path with a comedy, this is a good way to do it. And really, it's good they had Jennifer Lawrence in the lead, because she really sells the emotional end of it. And you need that, because by the end you get to the point where there's no big laughs at that point. There's kind of one big laugh at the end, but it's mostly about the resolution of what had happened. So pretty damn good script, I'll say. And Jennifer Lawrence really carries the whole film. I think Jennifer Lawrence really should do more of these films. She's a really good actress. She's good in character. And she really thrives in this environment. I forget the drama she did very early on. She was great in that. The ensemble cast almost kind of waste her sometimes, unless the other actors are kind of at her level. Like American Hustler, it worked. Like X-Men, any hot chick could have played mystique, really. But I think she should do more of these types of films, whether it's a comedy or not, where she's something very character driven. She's very good at this. And one of my favorite actors is in this. I don't know the actor's name off the top of my head, but he always plays a scumbag, but like a lovable scumbag. He played Jimmy in oh god, that Caitlin Olsen vehicle on Fox. I can't think of the name of it, but it was like Caitlin Olsen's sister has 3 kids, and her sister's married to this rich guy, but they've been scamming money from the government, and they go on the lam. And so Caitlin Olsen comes to live with the kids and take care of them, but she's living in a mansion and using their money, but they don't really. I don't know. It was a weird concept, but her sidekick was Jimmy, who was just sort of like a lovable scumbag who came along and is trying to scam just like Caitlin Olsen was, and he's in this movie as a very similar character. He plays a lovable scumbag very, very well. So there's that, and all the cast is really great in this. They're given a lot to do in terms of their character. There's not a line of there's no fat in this script, and that's why I really like it. Every line of dialogue is necessary, and it either clarifies and heightens a character, or it's just not there. So, all right, let's get into the non-spoiler reviews. Or the spoiler review. That's the spoiler, a non-spoiler review. And now the spoilers. Okay. If you're going to watch it, it's on Netflix. Jennifer Lawrence is naked. Okay, so first act, Jennifer Lawrence, they set her up very well. She desperately wants to keep her mom's house, but she kind of is this woman who sleeps with a lot of guys locally. As we used to say back in the day, she's the town bike. Everybody rides her. But there is a character reason for this. Her mother, and they explain this during the course of the movie, and it doesn't come out easy, but it comes out. So the first act, she's sleeping around with guys. She uses them to get what she wants, but she's also trying to save her house when her car's repossessed by a guy who runs a tow truck who she also used to date. Now she's stuck working at a bar and doing Uber on the off season in Montauk. So great detail in the script. And she doesn't know what she's going to do without her car. She's got to get a car. So she sits around with her friends, including Jimmy, trying to figure out something when they come across a Craigslist ad for, date my college-age son, and we'll give you this Buick Regal. And they even had the name of the car. That's another great detail in the script. So Jennifer Lawrence, desperate, says, I'd rather do that than start an OnlyFans or get a sugar daddy, because she also hates the tourists in her town, because you find out later, she has total justified reason. Her dad was a tourist who had an affair with her mother, and that's why she was even born, and he wanted nothing to do with her. So the lawyers paid them off. Her dad's rich, and she wanted to connect with her dad, but he wants nothing to do with her. So she naturally resents all the tourists and she doesn't really want their money. Not that way. So she takes this gig, and Matthew Broderick's the dad and the mother. They're both helicopter parents. And they basically say, you got to date our son, date the hell out of him, which is a funny line. And he's just in his shell on his phone, playing video games. So he works at like a dog rescue place, and so she goes down there, pretends to adopt a dog, but she's just throwing herself at him, and he just doesn't get it. And then there's a great scene where he maces her because he thinks he's being kidnapped. And of course she's saying, you can't be kidnapped, you're an adult, what are you talking about? I'm trying to have sex with you, I think you're hot. And she just wants the car at first. But he's such a nice guy, and she has to get to know him because he he's too sheltered, and he can't just have sex with her like she's been having sex with half the guys in town. So as they get to know each other, she gets to know him, and then you hear the story about her dad and how she didn't go to prom because she got a letter. She sent a letter to her dad, wanting to get to know him, and then got the letter back unopened the day she was supposed to go to prom, and that's why she didn't go to prom. So she's kind of a sad character, but you understand why she sleeps around. You understand why she hates the tourists, and she's determined to keep her mom's house, right? And she tells him a story of how she left when she was 18, but when she got to New York, she decided to come back. And later, that turns into a bombshell and an emotional moment, which I thought was very good. So then the second act is all about her trying to bang this kid, and of course everything just goes wrong. And then you get the naked scene on the beach where she convinces them to go skinny dipping so they could have sex, but then these teenagers come by and try to steal their clothes, and then Jennifer Lawrence comes out of surf pissed and beats the hell out of them. So nothing but problems along the way, and they don't have sex, and then there's a sweet moment where the kid decides to get a limo and treat Jennifer Lawrence to the prom she never had, and they run into one of his classmates who's also going to Princeton. He's going to Princeton, and it's clear like they should be together, and she wants him to come to a party, and Jennifer Lawrence gets jealous. But the jealousy turns things ugly, and then he decides he wants to go to the party and kind of doesn't want to have anything to do with Jennifer Lawrence. So he goes to the party, he drinks first, and then Jennifer Lawrence loses him at the party, and he eventually tries to have sex with the other girl, but he ended up taking a drug while he was there because now he's at the point in the movie where he's just trying everything and he doesn't know what he's doing. And Jennifer Lawrence kind of ends up embarrassing him. And there's some backstory with him with an embarrassing high school thing that doesn't seem to come up, which I thought would. But long story short, that blows up in their face. They almost have sex again, but he confesses to her that he loves her, and she realizes she's taken this too far, and she doesn't want to have sex with him anymore because now she feels bad. So at that point in the movie, Matthew Broderick agrees to give Jennifer Lawrence the car anyway, because what they wanted was for him to come out of his shell, and he's done that. So unfortunately, he overhears a conversation between his parents and Jennifer Lawrence and discovers that they set the whole thing up. Then he invites Jennifer Lawrence to basically kind of confront her, but like he's too obtuse about it, and then he leaves to go wreck her car as revenge, which he does. And then they end up in his room, and then they basically have sex, but like he kind of finishes on her, I'll say, as opposed to in her. And because she's just so hot and he's 19. But it's a real tense moment, because it's like he's not into her anymore, and he's mad at her for sort of betraying him, and Jennifer Lawrence is actually kind of into him because he's been sweet and she didn't want to hurt him, and she tries to explain, but and then comes that moment, and the moment is this. Something about like he confronts her that that he's rich, she's broke, and one day he'll be living in Paris and he'll come back to Montauk to visit his parents, and he says to Jennifer Lawrence, "You'll still be here. Your dad because you expect your dad to show up in Montauk to apologize to you, and that's never going to happen. And that's why you turned around in New York. See, she told him this personal story about her going to New York and then coming back to Montauk. He throws that in her face in this key moment, and you see this huge shift in status. In the beginning of the movie, he's this sheltered kid who doesn't know anything, and Jennifer's trying to bring him out of his shell, and he does. But then there's this moment where he dumps this on her, and really just sort of exposes her emotionally, and it's kind of devastating towards her. And so the next scenes are her crying on the beach, and then getting her life together, which she finally does. She raises the money to save the house. She fixes the car that he kind of wrecked, and she realizes that she owes it to him. That that push got her to, and the experience with her. She also ends up with some guy. There's a moment where she's going to have sex with him, but then he does something really stupid, and I won't give it away, but there's an item that she sees, and it reminds her of her, and then she kind of just doesn't, she kind of loses interest in this dude. It's kind of a funny bit. You can kind of see it coming a mile away, but it's not bad. And then, so she just, gets her life together. And one of the key moments, too, was she didn't want to sell her house because she was sort of holding on to it. And she ends up selling the house, and she's going to move to California, which she wanted to do, and go surfing. And she ends up selling it to her two friends because they got a kid on the way, and they said they couldn't afford a house, but thanks to her lowering the price and them sort of pulling it together, they can buy Jennifer's house. And so they can live in her house in Montauk. She can come back, and it's all like a happy ending. So then she wants to tell the kid, she wants to thank him, essentially, and he's mad at her still. So eventually there's a scene early in the movie where he jumps on her car naked after the skinny dipping scene, and they get into an argument, and she starts driving with him naked on the car, and that's a funny scene. Well, that gets repeated at the end, only Jennifer's on the hood of the car trying to tell him, and it ends how you expect, with Jennifer Lawrence on fire and him driving into the ocean. So that was kind of funny. But the emotional ending is, they've got this weird bond. They're going to stay friends, and she thanks him because now she can kind of move on with her life. Because she's selling the house and moving to California and going surfing, and she didn't really come off as a surfer, is the only thing I'll say. There wasn't a scene of her surfing, but I guess she was supposed to be a surfer character. I would have liked to have seen one surfing scene, perhaps, but maybe she didn't want to do that. I guess it was kind of unnecessary, but that was the implication. She's really into surfing. All her friends were. So, and then that's the end of the movie. So this is kind of nice realization that the two of them have become friends. He's going to go off to Princeton and his life. She's going to go off to California and possibly come back to see her friends who bought her house one day, and it was kind of nice, kind of a nice ending. Not the funniest ending, but decent, a decent kind of funny. Again, in the realm of something that could happen as opposed to all-out craziness, and they had some other bit with a dog, and that was kind of cute. So I liked it. I think it's worth watching. For a rental, for a movie in the theater, maybe only because Jennifer Lawrence is naked, and you would be able to see it better in the theater. Because she is full on naked in this, just full on frontal nudity. But she's fighting these teenagers for her clothes, so it's not sexy nudity. It's just kind of like there. Um, but yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. Definitely a good script. Definitely a good script. Um, you know, all the details there. I mean, you know, other screenwriters, they wouldn't even mention the name of the town sometimes. Sometimes they do these movies and the town is doesn't exist, or it's made up, or um, you know, it's there was a real dynamic uh, between the characters, between the town and the people who came in and out of there. Um, you know, every character had their role, their place in the world. It really felt like a world. You know, uh, it was the sort of movie you could. I mean, the story was resolved, but you could see, you know, the character getting into other things, and probably be pretty engaging. You know, if you kept this sort of level of characterization. I wish every movie had this level of characterization. You know, the fact they had a specific car, a Buick Regal, 40K. I mean, again, some people they just leave those details out, and it makes for a lesser movie. So the devil's in the details, screenwriters. Um, so yeah, I think I think Jennifer Lawrence did a good job. I think the screenwriter did an amazing job. Direction solid. Everything's pretty solid. I don't know why, and this movie couldn't have cost that much money either. I don't know why they don't make more of them. It was a fun movie to watch. You know, I don't know if I'd watch it again, but although I might go back and look at that one fight scene. But other than that, um, you know, it's solid. No hard feelings. Still playing on Netflix if you want to catch it. And that's it for me, Tony D, Little Joan, somewhere in the house. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one.